Namaste students. I'm Jevin Dr. Aziz Mohammed Khan from Department of Food and Biotechnology, Faculty of Agriculture and Veterinary Science, Jyoti Vidyapith Women's University, Jaipur. Today, I'm going to discuss about the topic cytokines, and also discuss about the types of cytokines and their cytokine receptors. So, what are the cytokines? We know that we are humans and we have a particular language, English or uh, Hindi, Sanskrit. So we can talk to each other by our language. And when we talk about cells, how the cells will interact to each other. They want to talk to each other, they want to interact to each other, then how they will interact? Because human body is a combination of cells where one cell is essential to another cells, and especially in the case of the immune system, there is a necessity of the interaction, because if foreign particles enters into the body, this foreign particles must be known that a foreign particle has been entered, and all the cells must know that a foreign particle has entered, so that they can perform the activation process. So which activity leads to the interaction of the cells? The answer is that cytokines. Cytokines are the molecules which have capability to cell signaling, cell interactions. They have a particular kind of message, and they transfer this message. Whatever the signal is there, this signal is transferred from one cell to another cells by the way of the cytokines. So this is the cytokines. So we are going to discuss about the cytokines deeply. In the system, the immune system recognizes the presence of pathogens by several proteins that bind to molecules secreted by the pathogens or carried on the surface. The cells which are responsible for the immune response include in the immune system there are B cells, there are T cells, macrophages, neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, endothelial cells, and the mast cells, okay, dendritic cells. These are the cells which are involved in the immune system. And when a pathogen enters, these cells must know that a pathogen has been entered. So how they will come to know? These cells have distinct roles in the immune system and communicate each other immune cells by the cytokines, which control their proliferation, differentiation, and function of cells of the immune system. So these not only cell communication but also their activation processes completed by the cytokines. The development of an effective immune response involves lymphoid cells, inflammatory cells, and hematopoietic cells. And the complex interacts among these cells are imitated by a group of proteins collectively regarded as the cytokines to denote their role in the cell-to-cell communication. Cytokines means the chemicals which are secreted by one cell is known as the cytokines. Cytokines or immunokines, which are cyto means cell and kinos means movement. We talk about the definition of the cytokines. Cytokines are low molecular weight regulatory protein or glycoprotein which are secreted by white blood cells and other cells in the body in response to a number of stimuli. So this is the definition of cytokines. Now go to the properties of these cytokines. What are the properties? Cytokines bind to the specific receptor on membrane of target cells. This is the suppose this is one cell, okay, and and cell. So there is a receptor and this cytokine there is a receptor. So this cell is sending some cytokines and this cell needs that signal. So this cell will secrete some cytokines and those cytokines will come and bind on this cell receptor and communicate this cell. So this cell will communicate the cell by the way of the cytokines and the message which is transferred in the form of the cytokines. Cytokines bind to specific receptors on the membrane of target cells and trigger signal transduction. Okay. They trigger signal transduction. Okay. How they interact? They interact each other by the process of the activation of the signal transduction pathway that ultimately alter the gene expression in the target cells. Okay. So if this cell has a receptor and a cytokine will bind here, this receptor is connected to the nucleus and this nucleus will alter its gene expression. It will alter the gene expression and this nucleus will now then get activated and it will secrete some special proteins which activate the proliferation, which activate the activation, which activate the uh, differentiation process. Okay. So this is all from the starting of the cytokines. Cytokines and their fully assembled receptors exhibit very high affinity to each other. One cell has a very good binding affinity to another cells, and they deliver some intracellular signals. Means internal signal of one cell is transferred to another cells. Means internal signals which are from the nucleus. So one nucleus is transferring its signals to the cells of the another nucleus so that it can perform its functions. The cytokines and the receptors exhibit very high affinity to each other with dissociation constant ranging from the 10 to the power minus 10 to 10 to the power minus 12 m. And because of their high affinity are so high, the cytokines can mediate biological effects at a picomolar concentration also. So if we talk about some signaling types, there are some types of signalings. We need to discuss these signalings also. The first one is autocrine, the second one is paracrine, third one is endocrine. So three types of signalings. What is the autocrine signal? Particular cytokine may bind to a receptor on the membrane of the another cells. So on the basis of the cell to which it is binding, the signaling is divided into three types. First one is autocrine signaling. One cell, this one cell is secreting a cytokine, and this cytokine will release and bind this cell itself, not to another cell. So this type of signaling is known as the autocrine signaling. Means this cell is signaling a cytokine. It is secreting some cytokines, but the cytokine is not binding to any other cells. It is binding to this cell only. So this type of signaling is known as the autocrine signaling. Auto means self, and the next is paracrine. If it may bind to receptor on the target cells, which is in the close proximity to the producer cell, it is known as the paracrine signaling. So this is one cell, and this is the second cell. They are close to each other. If this cell is secreting some cytokines and these cytokines will bind to this cell receptor, then this type of signaling is known as the paracrine signaling. So the cell which is secreting a cytokine, and the cytokine will bind to the cell which is in the close proximity, and this type of signaling is known as the paracrine signaling. The next thing, third type of signaling, that is the endocrine signaling. Endocrine signaling is also a type where a cell is secreting some cytokines, and the target cell is very far away in the secretion. It is very far away, and in the blood circulation system, it is very far away, and the cytokine will flow in the blood and reach to the target cell and signal to the other cell. So if it may bind, if cytokines bind to cells in the distant part of the body, this type of signaling is known as the endocrine signaling. So this is the type of signaling molecule. I must explain here some more things. The type of some function, the type the cytokines on the basis of their work, the basis of their function. Okay. The first one is pleiotropy. Pleiotropy means if a cell is signaling a cytokine, if cell is signaling and activating more functions than desired, then it is known as the pleiotropy. Means one cytokine, single cytokine, it's functioning. It is transferring signals to many cells, and to those many cells, it is showing different functions. Then this type of signaling is known as the pleiotropy. Redundancy, it is one type of cell, then it is binding to another cells. Okay. And they have different 2, 3, 4, any kind of cytokines which are secreted by one single cell, and 3 to 4 cytokines perform combine to each other to perform a single type of function, then it is known as the redundancy. And synergy is the function when one cytokine is combined with another cytokines to induce a similar type of function in a particular cell. And another thing is antagonism. If one cytokine is secreting and performing a function, the another cytokine which is also secreted will block the function of the first cytokine, means it is showing the uh, opposite functions. So this type of signaling is known as the antagonism. So in the next video, I will discuss about the pleiotropy, redundancy, and also in the diagrammatic manner. So students in this lecture will be able to understand what are the cytokines, what is the function of the cytokines, and the basic idea of the cytokines, how the cytokines can be used in transferring of signals. So which type of questions can be asked? Explain cytokines and their uh, type of cells on which they are transferring signals. So some more things which I will discuss in the next video lecture, and also the cytokine receptor families. So my lecture is over here. Thank you very much.